Can you draw a Tiktaalik, prehistoric fish, as a ringmaster of a circus? They were the first fish to be able to crawl on land. Nobody knows what color they were, but I would like it to be some shade of green. It can be in the middle of the circus arena wearing ringmaster clothes. The Tiktaalik should be flat on the ground. We pretty much only see the back of the clothes. The background should be the interior of the circus tent. You don't have to draw the people or anything in the crowd. It could just be a rehearsal.
Yeah, this dude's a bad boy. I'm gonna draw him. Yeah, I like this one. Whole bunch of references attached. Oh, they even got a back view. I appreciate that. Stock photos. Yeah, I get the gist of it. Poke that bitch back in the water. We don't need humans on this planet. So I got 3 hours for this one. Because the story of this scene is going to be heavily dependent on the whole circus element, I thought I'd create the background almost entirely in 3D. It saves a lot of time in this case, because I can just use some pre-made, free assets to put the whole thing together, instead of wasting time trying to get the perspective and all the technical things accurate by drawing it by hand. To create the fabric of the circus tent, I created a circular plane and ran it through a cloth simulation, so that it would fall over these two circles and form a tent shape around the middle. Next step was just adding some spotlights and general lighting to the scene. Nothing too fancy here, I just added 4 spotlights on these railings and the big all blue overhead light. I initially planned to allocate 1 hour and 30 minutes to creating the background, which actually was already coming to an end. And half of the scene didn't even have textures yet. So I tried speed running the texturing here and managed to wrap it up with only 10 minutes overtime. I finally got to drawing this bad boy with less than half the time remaining on the clock. However, it ended up not even being an issue because, in a sense, there wasn't much to go wrong with here. Would it have been a human character, it would have been a different story, but since nobody even knows for sure what these creatures look like, it's hard to draw it wrong. I added some quick scales on its body with a texture brush on a separate layer. The reason why is because I could add some more yellow tones to the layer underneath it, and I could lock the transparency of the scales and shade them in a more shiny manner to create the illusion of 2 different textures. So with 21 minutes remaining on the clock, I was pretty much already done. And I used the extra time to fix up some minor errors in the background and to do some color correction. I actually had a lot of fun making the background for this one. Yeah, I think this meets their expectations. Why would anybody order this? I cannot answer, but the Tiktaalik is on its way to master the circus performance. The crowd loves him. It's funny because there is no crowd. Enjoy, my friend. All right, let's do this. Alright, let's check out this one.
Hello. Please draw me a male fawn, a mythological being with a man's upper body and goat legs, horns, ears and tail. He will be holding a flute, a duduk, ready to play it. Reference pic of duduk included, in an ancient forest. He has curly, shortish hair in a dark brown shade, matching the color of the fur on his thighs and legs. He is handsome as well. Will-o'-the-wisps are gathering nearby him. Earthy tones with different browns and greens would be good. I don't have any specific request for his pose, but I want it to be obvious what he is. The background/ancient forest doesn't have to be included. The fawn is the most important thing.
That's cool, that seems fun though. What are will-o'-wisps? In folklore, a will-o'-the-wisp is an atmospheric ghost light seen by travelers at night. Okay. Alright, so this is the thumbnail. The idea is to have like a diagonal composition, like shapes are predominantly going this way with the trees in the background and the direction of the instrument. I spent about 15 minutes on this thumbnail, so I'm gonna take 15 minutes off the 2-hour total. So after locking in the thumbnail, I wasn't sure if I'd actually be able to execute both the character and the background at a reasonable detail level in these 1 hour and 45 minutes. So we're about to find out. With only 40 minutes left on the clock, I finally got to adding in the rough base colors. Instead of throwing my focus all over the place, I concentrated mainly on the character and trying to figure out the lighting situation on him. I remember that there should be these glowy orbs in the scene, so it seemed like a good excuse to throw in some blue light on his left side. I used up the remaining 15 minutes to detail the character up a bit, but then the timer hit 0. Now I didn't feel like this was deliverable yet, so I thought I'd attempt to do some photo bashing to save time on the background. I bought a pack of ancient forest photos a couple years ago from photobash.org, and this seemed like a good use case for them. I'm doing this in Photoshop instead of Clip Studio because the warp transform tool in Photoshop is still unmatched by anything you can find in Clip Studio. Alright, so here's the final result. Made some minor modifications off camera, put some of these floaty orby thingies in the background. Yeah, overall it's got some inconsistencies in some areas which I'm not gonna point out, but for the time frame it was made in, it is good. The phone man is about to play the song of his dreams. The forest is lighting up. Hope you'll like it. Alright, 3 pieces left.
Hey Challa, you've done a piece of art for me before and I loved it so much I wanted to commission another. The piece will be for the same character you had done previously. The first commission is here as reference, but the second picture shows that the main difference in his appearance is that instead of wearing a gambeson, he's wearing scale mail made up of red dragon scales. The idea I had was for him to be surrounded by an imposing darkness from all sides with eldritch tentacles, eyeballs, etc. waiting to strike. Only tentacles is fine if it saves time. As it's a very Lovecraftian setting, the only thing holding back the darkness around him is the light coming from electricity he is conjuring. I was thinking a battle-ready pose with electricity being formed in his left hand and arcing around him, to his cutlass in his right hand, etc. or wherever you think will look nice for the lighting. Instead of a boisterous, arrogant expression like before, he's more serious as he doesn't know if he'll survive this.
It's a very descriptive request, which is nice. I am able to draw the same character twice. I'm able to use my own piece as a reference. Alright, so I'm putting together the reference board. I had to look up a bunch of meanings of words which were used in this description. For example, I don't know what the Lovecraftian meant. The subgenre of horror fiction and weird fiction that emphasizes the horror of the unknowable and incomprehensible more than gore. Wow. Learning something new every day. I assume this is for like a D&D game, and these people do have like a certain vocabulary. It's cool though. I've been looking up some references for the scale mail, so this is the type of shape someone do, because this obviously ain't gonna fly. I mean, it is from this figurine creator site. It focuses on 3D printability, so that's why the electricity looks like complete AIDS. Yeah, god damn, this old commission though, like what is going on with his face? Seriously. What is this shit? Anyway, I'm thinking of like a low angle. Alright, hell yeah. Yeah, something like this is what I'm going for. Feed pics time. So first the thumbnail. I did 2 different poses here, but ended up using neither of them in the actual drawing. But it was beneficial anyway, in the sense that now I knew what not to do. I ended up putting him in the center of the image instead of the side, so that the stuff around him could visually surround him, instead of being pushed to one side of the image. This makes it seem a lot more like he's trapped and in a dangerous situation. Would he have been in the side, like he was in the thumbnail, it would have seemed like he had more control, since one entire half of the image is dedicated solely to him. However, I didn't want to make it seem like he's completely powerless. The low angle and the heroic pose still implied him having some control over the situation. So with less than half the time remaining, I started adding lighting to the scene. It's more important than color in this case because you can't really see colors in the dark. And the commissioner wanted the electricity to be the only light source in the image, which means that the scene is not well lit overall. Shading the armor was pretty fun. It always looks cool when you add highlights to the corners of scales, which instantly adds some realism and implied detail. I did the same process when painting that snake picture in an older episode of the series, which was a pretty cool looking image as well. I'm now finishing off the base colors underneath, then blending the lighting and the colors together. So yeah, this looks pretty cool and all, but there's only 20 minutes left on the clock, and I practically hadn't even touched the tentacles in the background yet at all. So I decided to ignore the problem away and render the character more. Time's up. 3 hours up. Thought I'd turn on the camera to think out loud here for a moment and figure out what's the most time-effective manner to finish these tentacles. One option is 3D, which I'm not an expert at. I could probably do it by going like 5 hours into overtime. Not 5, but like an hour and a half at least. Or I could simply try to draw them, which I started trying to do right now. I should probably do like tentacle studies. This is the reference board for this image. I dragged a bunch of tentacle references in here before, but they're not very usable if if you know what I mean. They're just there, so I'd get the general gist of what they're supposed to look like. That's why I'm thinking 3D, and maybe I'll use the 3D as a learning experience or whatever. I can just get some valuable knowledge that I can use in the future. Yeah, 3D it is indeed. So I tried to model the tentacles myself by creating one segment of the tentacle and then duplicating it along a path. Then I had to bring in the image of the guy and create some lights that would match the shape of the electricity. I made some more tentacles in different shapes and tried to match them with my original sketch. I then realized that I don't have a proper material for these, so I followed a tutorial on YouTube and made this gross, fleshy, shiny material which looks nice and gritty for this scene. It fits in rather well. At this point I was like 1 hour and 52 minutes into overtime. I didn't want to spend more than 2 hours excess on this, so I speed ran painting over the tentacles to fit them with the style of the rest of the image. Oh yeah, it took me like 2 hours to do the tentacles, but I think it was worth it because it's actually reading as tentacles this time. Bought like a $12 add-on to make things follow curves efficiently. But sometimes you gotta pay money to earn money, you know what I'm saying? Your exceptional work's paying off. You've made it to level 2 on Fiverr and we're excited to celebrate your 6. What did I even do? Like, I just record videos. And this is basically rigging the system to get like level ups on Fiverr. It would be rigging if I actually cared about this. Here's the thing you asked for. Your guy is in the dark, about to fight off some tentacles. The situation is serious. Two more.
My request is that you do your own rendition of the attached picture of me and my girlfriend, in your style, more on the painterly side of things, if possible. It was one of the first pictures taken of us after we started dating, and our 2-year anniversary is coming up soon, just after Valentine's Day, so I wanted to do something special to commemorate it. Would you please be able to have your painting mirror my girlfriend's hairstyle in the image concert.jpg and prom.jpg, short and curly, and change my shirt to mirror the one I'm wearing in prom.jpg. Please feel free to take any artistic liberties you think would improve the image.
We're dealing with real people's faces again, so yeah. This one is rather simple in terms of creativity. It's basically copying a photo. The sketch phase was very straightforward. The guy wanted me to change his shirt to a different one from the reference, and the girl's haircut to a different one as well. So those are basically the only things that I'm changing from the reference. To make it not too boring though, I still decided to break the lighting down to multiple passes to make the process more interesting. First one being the sunlight. Next up, the orange bounce light, and then a little bit of ambient occlusion thrown in there as well. I decided to have a bit more fun with the background though, and go with a more stylized approach here. I used the lasso shapes filled with texture brushes approach for the foliage in the back, which looks pretty darn cool if you ask me. Yeah, another one in the bag. Oh darn, I just noticed. Let me just erase that real quick. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it is a very mundane image, but it did turn out cool from a technical standpoint, so let's deliver. Hey, yo, happy anniversary. Hope I didn't miss it. Here's a painting of the photo in my style. It's still kind of realistic, but also rather stylized when you look closely. Enjoy. Also, hope the lightness is close enough. Lighten the mood with a little ha-ha.
Miracle, oh Allah, holding the blossom of a bright red water lily in his palms and crying over it, hunched over on the ground. Very edgy and sad. I attached a reference of his tattoo just in case if you needed it.
Zion. So somebody with white gloves and the tattoo. Wait, so this is the tattoo, right? Cool, very nice, very cool, nice. Thanks for the commission. Since there's just the character and no background in this piece, I skipped the thumbnailing phase and just went straight for the sketch. I did this off the top of my head first, but quickly realized that there's many things off about it. And I didn't have time to fix them since it's just a 1 hour drawing, so I ended up buying a reference image pack from Graphic Studio and used one of the images as reference to start over. This pose seems to have a bit more character to it. than the one I did off the top of my head. Now there's only 20 minutes left on the clock for shading, so I just went with the first idea that came to me, which was a blue overhead light, which leaves his face in the shadow, enhancing the dark mood. Or so I thought, at least. I didn't even realize I hadn't even touched the water lily in his hands at all, so I started doing that, but when I started it, the clock hit 0. One more time. So 20 minutes over time, I realized that the skin doesn't look just right. Shading dark skin should be more reflection-based, so I shrunk down these cast light shapes on him to smaller shapes of reflection, and that seemed to solve the issue. So yeah, I left it at this stage. Oh shit, the due is in 2 hours. Here's the emotional OC doing the emotional thing.